Cologne is a city in Germany. It is the largest city of Germany's most populous state of North Rhine-Westphalia and the fourth most populous city and one of the oldest in Germany. With 3.6 million people in the urban region and 1.1 million inhabitants within its city proper, Cologne is the largest city on the River Rhine and also the most populous city of both the Rhine-Ruhr metropolitan region and the Rhineland. Centered on the left bank of the Rhine, Cologne is about 35 kilometers southeast of NRW's state capital Düsseldorf and 25 kilometers northwest of Bonn. It is classified as a GAWC Gamma Plus World City. The city's medieval Catholic Cologne Cathedral, the third tallest church and tallest cathedral in the world, constructed to house the Shrine of the Three Kings, is a globally recognized landmark and one of the most visited sites and pilgrimage destinations in Europe. The cityscape is further shaped by the 12 Romanesque churches of Cologne, and Cologne is famous for Eau de Cologne, that has been produced in the city since 1709, and Cologne has since come to be a generic term. There are many institutions of higher education in the city, most notably the University of Cologne, one of Europe's oldest and largest universities, the Technical University of Cologne, Germany's largest university of applied sciences, and the German Sport University Cologne. It hosts 3 Max Planck Science Institutes and is a major research hub for the aerospace industry, with the German Aerospace Center and the European Astronaut Center headquarters. It also has significant chemical and automobile industry. Cologne-Bonn Airport is a regional hub. The main airport for the region is Düsseldorf Airport. Cologne was founded and established in Germanic Ubi territory in the 1st century CE as the Roman Colonia Agrippina, hence its name. Cologne, the French version of the city's name, has become standard in English as well. Cologne functioned as the capital of the Roman province of Germania Inferior and as the headquarters of the Roman military in the region until occupied by the Franks in 462. During the Middle Ages, the city flourished as being located on one of the most important major trade routes between East and Western Europe. Cologne was a free imperial city of the Holy Roman Empire and one of the major members of the trade union Hanseatic League. It was one of the largest European cities in medieval and Renaissance times. Prior to World War II, the city had undergone occupations by the French and the British, and was part of Prussia beginning in 1815. Cologne was one of the most heavily bombed cities in Germany during World War II. The bombing reduced the population by 95%, mainly due to evacuation, and destroyed almost the entire millennia-old city center. The post-war rebuilding has resulted in a very mixed cityscape, restoring only major historic landmarks like city gates and churches. Cologne is a major cultural center for the Rhineland. It hosts more than 30 museums and hundreds of galleries. Exhibitions range from local ancient Roman archaeological sites to contemporary graphics and sculpture. The Cologne Trade Fair hosts a number of trade shows such as Art Cologne, D-Mexco, IMM Cologne, Photokina and Gamescom, a leading video games fair. History. Roman Cologne. The first urban settlement on the grounds of modern-day Cologne was Oppidum Ubiorum, founded in 38 BCE by the Ubi, a Sicilian Germanic tribe. In 50 CE, the Romans founded Colonia Claudia Era Agrippinensium on the River Rhine, and the city became the provincial capital of Germania Inferior in 85 CE. Considerable Roman remains can be found in present-day Cologne, especially near the wharf area, where a 1,900-year-old Roman boat was discovered in late 2007. From 260 to 271, Cologne was the capital of the Gallic Empire under Postumus, Marius, and Victorinus. In 310, under Emperor Constantine I, a bridge was built over the Rhine at Cologne. Roman imperial governors resided in the city and it became one of the most important trade and production centers in the Roman Empire north of the Alps. Cologne is shown on the 4th century Peutinger map. Maternus, who was elected as bishop in 313, was the first known bishop of Cologne. The city was the capital of a Roman province until it was occupied by the Ripuarian Franks in 462. Parts of the original Roman sewers are preserved underneath the city, with the new sewerage system having opened in 1890. After the destruction of the Jewish temple in Jerusalem and the associated dispersion of the Jews, there is evidence of a Jewish community in Cologne. In 321 CE, Emperor Constantine approved the settlement of a Jewish community with all the freedoms of Roman citizens. It is assumed that it was located near the Marsforte within the city wall. The Edict of Constantine to the Jews is the oldest documented evidence in Germany. Middle Ages. Early medieval Cologne was part of Austrasia within the Frankish Empire. In 716, Charles Martel commanded an army for the first time and suffered the only defeat of his life when Chilperic II, king of Neustria, invaded Austrasia and the city fell to him in the Battle of Cologne. Charles fled to the Eifel Mountains, rallied supporters and took the city back that same year after defeating Chilperic in the Battle of Amblev. Cologne had been the seat of a bishop since the Roman period. Under Charlemagne, in 795, Bishop Hildebold was promoted to archbishop. In the 843 Treaty of Verdun, Cologne fell into the dominion of Lothair I's Mittelfrancia, later called Lotharingia. In 953, the archbishops of Cologne first gained noteworthy secular power when Bishop Bruno was appointed as duke by his brother Otto I, King of Germany. In order to weaken the secular nobility, who threatened his power, Otto endowed Bruno and his archiepiscopal successors with the prerogatives of secular princes, thus establishing the electorate of Cologne, formed by the temporal possessions of the archbishopric and included in the end a strip of territory along the left bank of the Rhine east of Jülich, as well as the Duchy of Westphalia on the other side of the Rhine, beyond Berg and Mark. By the end of the 12th century, the Archbishop of Cologne was one of the 7 electors of the Holy Roman Emperor. Besides being Prince-Elector, he was Arch-Chancellor of Italy as well, technically from 1238 and permanently from 1263 until 1803. Following the Battle of Worringen in 1288, Cologne gained its independence from the archbishops and became a free city. Archbishop Siegfried II von Westerberg was forced to reside in Bonn. The archbishop nevertheless preserved the right of capital punishment. Thus the municipal council depended upon him in all matters concerning criminal justice. This included torture, the sentence for which was only allowed to be handed down by the episcopal judge known as the Greve. This legal situation lasted until the French conquest of Cologne. Besides its economic and political significance, Cologne also became an important center of medieval pilgrimage, when Cologne's archbishop, Reinald of Dassel, gave the relics of the 3 wise men to Cologne's cathedral in 1164. Besides the 3 Magi, Cologne preserves the relics of Saint Ursula and Albertus Magnus. Cologne's location on the River Rhine placed it at the intersection of the major trade routes between East and West as well as the main south-northwestern Europe trade route, northern Italy to Flanders. The intersection of these trade routes were the basis of Cologne's growth. By 1300 the city population was 50,000 to 55,000. Cologne was a member of the Hanseatic League in 1475, when Frederick III confirmed the city's imperial immediacy. Early modern history. The economic structures of medieval and early modern Cologne were characterized by the city's status as a major harbor and transport hub on the Rhine. Craftsmanship was organized by self-administering guilds, some of which were exclusive to women. As a free imperial city, Cologne was a self-ruling state within the Holy Roman Empire, an imperial estate with seat and vote at the imperial diet, and as such had the right to contribute to the defense of the empire and maintain its own military force. As they wore a red uniform, these troops were known as the Rotfunken. These soldiers were part of the army of the Holy Roman Empire. They fought in the wars of the 17th and 18th century, including the wars against revolutionary France in which the small force was almost completely wiped out in combat. The tradition of these troops is preserved as a military persiflage by Cologne's most outstanding carnival society, the Rotfunken. The free imperial city of Cologne must not be confused with the electorate of Cologne, which was a state of its own within the Holy Roman Empire. Since the second half of the 16th century, the majority of archbishops were drawn from the Bavaria-Wittelsbach dynasty. Due to the free status of Cologne, the archbishops were usually not allowed to enter the city. Thus they took up residence in Bonn and later in Brühl on the Rhine. As members of an influential and powerful family, and supported by their outstanding status as electors, the archbishops of Cologne repeatedly challenged and threatened the free status of Cologne during the 17th and 18th centuries, resulting in complicated affairs, which were handled by diplomatic means and propaganda as well as by the supreme courts of the Holy Roman Empire. From the 19th century until World War II, Cologne lost its status as a free city during the French period. According to the Peace Treaty of Luneville, all the territories of the Holy Roman Empire on the left bank of the Rhine were officially incorporated into the French Republic. Thus this region later became part of Napoleon's empire. Cologne was part of the French département Roer with Aachen as its capital. The French modernized public life, for example by introducing the Napoleonic Code and removing the old elites from power. The Napoleonic Code remained in use on the left bank of the Rhine until 1900, when a unified civil code was introduced in the German Empire. In 1815 at the Congress of Vienna, Cologne was made part of the Kingdom of Prussia, first in the Jülich-Klevesburg province and then the Rhine province. The permanent tensions between the Roman Catholic Rhineland and the overwhelmingly Protestant Prussian state repeatedly escalated, with Cologne being in the focus of the conflict. In 1837 the Archbishop of Cologne, Clemens August von Droste-Vischering, was arrested and imprisoned for 2 years after a dispute over the legal status of marriages between Protestants and Roman Catholics. In 1874, during the Kulturkampf, Archbishop Paul Melchers was imprisoned before taking asylum in the Netherlands. These conflicts alienated the Catholic population from Berlin and contributed to a deeply felt anti-Prussian resentment, which was still significant after World War II, when the former mayor of Cologne, Konrad Adenauer, became the first West German chancellor. During the 19th and 20th centuries, Cologne absorbed numerous surrounding towns, and by World War I had already grown to 700,000 inhabitants. Industrialization changed the city and spurred its growth. Vehicle and engine manufacturing was especially successful, though the heavy industry was less ubiquitous than in the Ruhr area. The cathedral, started in 1248 but abandoned around 1560, was eventually finished in 1880 not just as a place of worship but also as a German national monument celebrating the newly founded German Empire and the continuity of the German nation since the Middle Ages. Some of this urban growth occurred at the expense of the city's historic heritage, with much being demolished and sometimes replaced by contemporary buildings. Cologne was designated as one of the fortresses of the German Confederation. It was turned into a heavily armed fortress with 2 fortified belts surrounding the city, the remains of which can be seen to this day. The military demands on what became Germany's largest fortress presented a significant obstacle to urban development, with forts, bunkers, and wide defensive dugouts completely encircling the city and preventing expansion. This resulted in a very densely built-up area within the city itself. During World War I, Cologne was the target of several minor air raids but suffered no significant damage. Cologne was occupied by the British Army of the Rhine until 1926, under the terms of the armistice and the subsequent Versailles Peace Treaty. In contrast with the harsh behavior of the French occupation troops in Germany, the British forces were more lenient to the local population. Konrad Adenauer, the mayor of Cologne from 1917 until 1933 and later a West German chancellor, acknowledged the political impact of this approach, especially since Britain had opposed French demands for a permanent Allied occupation of the entire Rhineland. As part of the demilitarization of the Rhineland, the city's fortifications had to be dismantled. This was an opportunity to create 2 green belts around the city by converting the fortifications and their fields of fire into large public parks. This was not completed until 1933. In 1919 the University of Cologne, closed by the French in 1798, was reopened. This was considered to be a replacement for the loss of the University of Strasbourg on the west bank of the Rhine, which reverted to France with the rest of Alsace. Cologne prospered during the Weimar Republic, and progress was made especially in public governance, city planning, housing and social affairs. Social housing projects were considered exemplary and were copied by other German cities. Cologne competed to host the Olympics, and a modern sports stadium was erected at Mungersdorf. When the British occupation ended, the prohibition of civil aviation was lifted and Cologne-Butzweilerhof Airport soon became a hub for national and international air traffic, second in Germany only to Berlin-Tempelhof Airport. The Democratic parties lost the local elections in Cologne in March 1933 to the Nazi Party and other extreme right parties. The Nazis then arrested the Communist and Social Democrats members of the city assembly, and Mayor Adenauer was dismissed. Compared to some other major cities, however, the Nazis never gained decisive support in Cologne. By 1939 the population had risen to 772,221 inhabitants. World War II. During World War II, Cologne was a military area command headquarters for the Military District V of Munster. Cologne was under the command of Lieutenant General Freiherr Roder von Dyersburg, who was responsible for military operations in Bonn, Siegburg, Aachen, Jülich, Düren, and Monschau. Cologne was home to the 211th Infantry Regiment and the 26th Artillery Regiment. The Allies dropped 44,923.2 tons of bombs on the city during World War II, destroying 61% of its built-up area. During the bombing of Cologne in World War II, Cologne endured 262 air raids by the Western Allies, which caused approximately 20,000 civilian casualties and almost completely wiped out the central part of the city. During the night of the 31st of May 1942, Cologne was the target of Operation Millennium, the first 1,000 bomber raid by the Royal Air Force in World War II. 1,046 heavy bombers attacked their target with 1,455 tons of explosives, approximately two-thirds of which were incendiary. This raid lasted about 75 minutes, destroyed 600 acres of built-up area, killed 486 civilians and made 59,000 people homeless. The devastation was recorded by Hermann Clausen from 1942 until the end of the war, and presented in his exhibition and book of 1947 Singing in the Furnace. Cologne. Remains of an old city. Cologne was taken by the American First Army in early March 1945. By the end of the war, the population of Cologne had been reduced by 95%. This loss was mainly caused by a massive evacuation of the people to more rural areas. The same happened in many other German cities in the last 2 years of war. By the end of 1945, however, the population had already recovered to approximately 450,000. By the end of the war, essentially all of Cologne's pre-war Jewish population of 11,000 had been deported or killed by the Nazis. The 6 synagogues of the city were destroyed. The synagogue on Ruhnstrasse was rebuilt in 1959. Post-war Cologne until today. Despite Cologne's status as the largest city in the region, nearby Düsseldorf was chosen as the political capital of the federated state of North Rhine-Westphalia. With Bonn being chosen as the provisional federal capital and seat of the government of the Federal Republic of Germany, Cologne benefited by being sandwiched between two important political centers. The city became and still is home to a number of federal agencies and organizations. After reunification in 1990, Berlin was made the capital of Germany. In 1945, architect and urban planner Rudolf Schwarz called Cologne the world's greatest heap of rubble. Schwarz designed the master plan for reconstruction in 1947, which included the construction of several new thoroughfares through the city center, especially the Nord-Süd-Fahrt. The master plan took into consideration the fact that even shortly after the war a large increase in automobile traffic could be anticipated. Plans for new roads had already, to a certain degree, evolved under the Nazi administration, but the actual construction became easier when most of the city center was in ruins. The destruction of 95% of the city center, including the famous 12 Romanesque churches such as St. Garion, Great St. Martin, St. Maria Im Capitol and several other monuments in World War II, meant a tremendous loss of cultural treasures. The rebuilding of those churches and other landmarks such as the Gürzenich Event Hall was not undisputed among leading architects and art historians at that time, but in most cases, civil intention prevailed. The reconstruction lasted until the 1990s, when the Romanesque Church of St. Cunibert was finished. In 1959, the city's population reached pre-war numbers again. It then grew steadily, exceeding 1 million for about 1 year from 1975. It remained just below that until mid-2010, when it exceeded 1 million again. Post-reunification. In the 1980s and 1990s, Cologne's economy prospered for two main reasons. The first was the growth in the number of media companies, both in the private and public sectors. They are especially catered for in the newly developed media park, which creates a strong visual focal point in Cologne's city center and includes the Kölnturm, one of Cologne's most prominent high-rise buildings. The second was the permanent improvement of the diverse traffic infrastructure, which made Cologne one of the most easily accessible metropolitan areas in Central Europe. Due to the economic success of the Cologne Trade Fair, the city arranged a large extension to the fair site in 2005. At the same time, the original buildings, which date back to the 1920s, were rented out to RTL, Germany's largest private broadcaster, as their new corporate headquarters. Cologne was the focus of the 2015-16 New Year's Eve sexual assaults in Germany, with over 500 women reporting that they were sexually assaulted by persons of African and Arab appearance. Geography. The metropolitan area encompasses over 405 square kilometers, extending around a central point that lies at 50 degrees 56, 33 latitude and 6 degrees 57, 32 longitude. The city's highest point is 118 meters above sea level and its lowest point is 37.5 meters above sea level. The city of Cologne lies within the larger area of the Cologne lowland, a cone-shaped area of the central Rhineland that lies between Bonn, Aachen and Düsseldorf. Districts. Cologne is divided into 9 boroughs and 85 districts. Climate. Located in the Rhine-Ruhr area, Cologne is one of the warmest cities in Germany. It has a temperate oceanic climate with cool winters and warm summers. It is also one of the cloudiest cities in Germany, with just 1,567.5 hours of sun a year. Its average annual temperature is 10.7 degrees Celsius, 15.4 degrees Celsius during the day and 6.1 degrees Celsius at night. In January, the mean temperature is 3.0 degrees Celsius, while the mean temperature in July is 19.0 degrees Celsius. The record high temperature of 40.3 degrees Celsius happened on the 25th of July 2019 during the July 2019 European heat wave, in which Cologne saw 3 consecutive days over 38.0 degrees Celsius. Especially the inner urban neighborhoods experience a greater number of hot days, as well as significantly higher temperatures during nighttime compared to the surrounding area. Still, temperatures can vary noticeably over the course of a month with warmer and colder weather. Precipitation is spread evenly throughout the year with a light peak in summer due to showers and thunderstorms. Flood protection. Cologne is regularly affected by flooding from the Rhine and is considered the most flood-prone European city. A city agency manages an extensive flood control system which includes both permanent and mobile flood walls, protection from rising waters for buildings close to the river banks, monitoring and forecasting systems, pumping stations and programs to create or protect floodplains, and river embankments. The system was redesigned after a 1993 flood, which resulted in heavy damage. Demographics. In the Roman Empire, the city was large and rich with a population of 40,000 in 100 to 200 AD. The city was home to around 20,000 people in 1000 AD, growing to 50,000 in 1200 AD. The Rhineland metropolis still had 50,000 residents in 1300 AD. Cologne is the 4th largest city in Germany after Berlin, Hamburg and Munich. As of the 31st of December 2016, there were 1,080,701 people registered as living in Cologne in an area of 401.15 kilometers. The population density was 2,641 per kilometer. The metropolitan area of the Cologne-Bonn region is home to 3,573,500 living on 4,415 per kilometer. It is part of the polycentric megacity region Rhine-Ruhr with a population of over 11 million people. There were 546,498 women and 522,694 men in Cologne. For every 1,000 men, there were 1,046 women. In 2015, there were 11,337 births in Cologne, 7,704 marriages and 2,203 divorces, and 9,629 deaths. In the city, the population was spread out, with 15.6% under the age of 18, and 17.6% were 65 years of age or older. 163 people in Cologne were over the age of 100. According to the Statistical Office of the City of Cologne, the number of people with a migrant background is at 36.7%. 2,537 people acquired German citizenship in 2015. In 2015, there were 557,090 households, of which 18.3% had children under the age of 18. 50.6% of all households were made up of singles. 8.7% of all households were single-parent households. The average household size was 1.87. Residents of Cologne with foreign citizenship. Cologne residents with a foreign citizenship as of the 31st of December 2015 is as follows. Turkish community. Cologne is home to 80,000 people of Turkish origin and is the second largest German city with Turkish population after Berlin. Cologne has in Little Istanbul in Kupstrasse that has many Turkish restaurants and markets. Famous Turkish-German people like rapper Eko Fresh and TV presenter Nazan X were born in Cologne. Language. Colognian or Kölsch is a small set of very closely related dialects, or variants, of the Ripuarian Central German group of languages. These dialects are spoken in the area covered by the Archdiocese and former electorate of Cologne, reaching from Neuss in the north to just south of Bonn, west to Düren and east to Olpe in the northwest of Germany. Kölsch is one of the very few city dialects in Germany, which also include the dialects spoken in Berlin, for example. Religion. As of 2015, 35.5% of the population belonged to the Catholic Church, the largest religious body, and 15.5% to the Evangelical Church. Irenaeus of Lyons claimed that Christianity was brought to Cologne by Roman soldiers and traders at an unknown early date. It is known that in the early 2nd century it was a bishop's seat. The first historical bishop of Cologne was Saint Maternus. Thomas Aquinas studied in Cologne in 1244 under Albertus Magnus. Cologne is the seat of the Roman Catholic Archdiocese of Cologne. According to the 2011 census, 2.1% of the population was Eastern Orthodox, 0.5% was member of an evangelical free church, and 4.2% belonged to further religious communities officially recognized by the state of North Rhine-Westphalia. There are several mosques, including the Cologne Central Mosque run by the Turkish Islamic Union for Religious Affairs. In 2011, about 11.2% of the population was Muslim. Cologne also has one of the oldest and largest Jewish communities in Germany. In 2011, 0.3% of Cologne's population was Jewish. On the 11th of October 2021, the mayor of Cologne, Henriette Rieker, announced that all of Cologne's 35 mosques would be allowed to broadcast the Adhan for up to 5 minutes on Fridays between noon and 3 p.m. She commented that the move shows that diversity is appreciated and loved in Cologne. Government. The city's administration is headed by the mayor and the 3 deputy mayors. Political traditions and developments. The long tradition of a free imperial city, which long dominated an exclusively Catholic population, and the age-old conflict between the church and the bourgeoisie have created its own political climate in Cologne. Various interest groups often form networks beyond party boundaries. The resulting web of relationships, with political, economic, and cultural links with each other in a system of mutual favors, obligations and dependencies, is called the Cologne coterie. This has often led to an unusual proportional distribution in the city government and degenerated at times into corruption. In 1999, a waste scandal over kickbacks and illegal campaign contributions came to light, which led not only to the imprisonment of the entrepreneur Helmut Trainkens, but also to the downfall of almost the entire leadership of the ruling Social Democrats. Mayor. The current Lord Mayor of Cologne is Henriette Rieker. She received 52.66% of the vote at the municipal election on the 17th of October 2015, running as an independent with the support of the CDU, FDP, and Greens. She took office on the 15th of December 2015. Rieker was re-elected to a second term in a runoff election on the 27th of September 2020, in which she received 59.27% of the vote. The mayor serves a term of 6 years. The most recent mayoral election was held on the 13th of September 2020, with a runoff held on the 27th of September, and the results were as follows. City Council. The Cologne City Council governs the city alongside the mayor. It serves a term of 5 years. The most recent City Council election was held on the 13th of September 2020, and the results were as follows. Cityscape. The inner city of Cologne was completely destroyed during World War II. The reconstruction of the city followed the style of the 1950s, while respecting the old layout and naming of the streets. Thus, the city today is characterized by simple and modest post-war buildings, with a few interspersed pre-war buildings which were reconstructed due to their historical importance. Some buildings of the Wiederaufbauzeit, for example, the Opera House by Wilhelm Riffen, are nowadays regarded as classics of modern architecture. Nevertheless, the uncompromising style of the Cologne Opera House and other modern buildings has remained controversial. Green areas account for over a quarter of Cologne, which is approximately 75 meters of public green space for every inhabitant. Wildlife. The presence of animals in Cologne is generally limited to insects, small rodents, and several species of birds. Pigeons are the most often seen animals in Cologne, although the number of birds is augmented each year by a growing population of feral exotics, most visibly parrots such as the rose-ringed parakeet. The sheltered climate in southeast North Rhine-Westphalia allows these birds to survive through the winter, and in some cases, they are displacing native species. The plumage of Cologne's green parrots is highly visible even from a distance, and contrasts starkly with the otherwise muted colors of the cityscape. Tourism. Cologne had 5.8 million overnight stays booked and 3.35 million arrivals in 2016. The city also has the most pubs per capita in Germany. The city has 70 clubs, countless bars, restaurants, and pubs. Landmarks. Churches. Cologne Cathedral is the city's most famous monument and the Cologne residents' most loved landmark. It is a Gothic church, started in 1248, and completed in 1880. In 1996, it was designated a World Heritage Site. It houses the Shrine of the Three Kings, which supposedly contains the relics of the Three Magi. Residents of Cologne sometimes refer to the cathedral as the Eternal Construction Site. 12 Romanesque churches. These buildings are outstanding examples of medieval church architecture. The origins of some of the churches go back as far as Roman times, for example St. Garion, which was originally a chapel in a Roman graveyard. With the exception of St. Maria Lyskirchen, all of these churches were very badly damaged during World War II. Reconstruction was only finished in the 1990s. Medieval houses. The Cologne City Hall, founded in the 12th century, is the oldest city hall in Germany still in use. The Renaissance-style loggia and tower were added in the 15th century. Other famous buildings include the Gürzenich, Haus Salic and the Overstolzen House. Medieval city gates. Of the 12 medieval city gates that once existed, only the Eigelsteintorburg at Ebertplatz, the Hahnenter at Rudolfplatz and the Severistorburg at Clodwigplatz still stand today. Streets. The Cologne ring boulevards with their medieval city gates are also known for their nightlife. Hohe Strasse is one of the main shopping areas and extends past the cathedral in an approximately southerly direction. The street contains many gift shops, clothing stores, fast food restaurants and electronic goods dealers. Schildergasse connects Neumarkt Square at its western end to the Hohe Strasse shopping street at its eastern end and has been named the busiest shopping street in Europe with 13,000 people passing through every hour, according to a 2008 study by GfK. Ehrenstrasse. The shopping area around Apostelnstrasse, Ehrenstrasse, and Rudolfplatz is a little more on the quirky and stylish side. Bridges. Several bridges cross the Rhine in Cologne. They are the Cologne-Rodenkirchen Bridge, South Bridge, Severin Bridge, Deutz Bridge, Hohenzollern Bridge, Zoo Bridge and Cologne-Mulheim Bridge. In particular, the Iron Tide Arch Hohenzollern Bridge is a dominant landmark along the river embankment. A Rhine crossing of a special kind is provided by the Cologne Cable Car, a cableway that runs across the Rhine between the Cologne Zoological Garden in Riel and the Rhine Park in Deutz. High-rise structures. Cologne's tallest structure is the Colonius Telecommunication Tower at 266 meters or 873 feet. The observation deck has been closed since 1992. A selection of the tallest buildings in Cologne is listed below. Other tall structures include the Hansehoch House, the Kranhaus buildings at Rheinauhofen, and the Messeturm Köln. Culture. Cologne has several museums. The famous Roman Germanic Museum features art and architecture from the city's distant past. The Museum Ludwig houses one of the most important collections of modern art in Europe, including a Picasso collection matched only by the museums in Barcelona and Paris. The Museum Schnutgen of Religious Art is partly housed in St. Cecilia, one of Cologne's 12 Romanesque churches. Many art galleries in Cologne enjoy a worldwide reputation, like e.g. Gallery Karsten Greve, one of the leading galleries for post-war and contemporary art. Several orchestras are active in the city, among them the Gürzenich Orchestra, which is also the orchestra of the Cologne Opera and the WDR Symphony Orchestra Cologne, both based at the Cologne Philharmonic Orchestra building. Other orchestras are the Musica Antiqua Köln and the WDR Rundfunkorchester Köln, and several choirs, including the WDR Rundfunkchor Köln. Cologne was also an important hotbed for electronic music in the 1950s and again from the 1990s onward. The public radio and TV station WDR was involved in promoting musical movements such as krautrock in the 1970s. The influential Can was formed there in 1968. There are several centers of nightlife, among them the Quartier Latang and the nightclub-studded areas around Hohenzollernring, Friesenplatz and Rudolfplatz. The large annual literary festival Lit. Cologne features regional and international authors. The main literary figure connected with Cologne is the writer Heinrich Böll, winner of the Nobel Prize for Literature. Cologne is well known for its beer, called Kolsch. Kolsch is also the name of the local dialect. This has led to the common joke of Kolsch being the only language one can drink. Cologne is also famous for Eau de Cologne, a perfume created by Italian expatriate Johann Maria Farina at the beginning of the 18th century. During the 18th century, this perfume became increasingly popular, was exported all over Europe by the Farina family, and Farina became a household name for eau de Cologne. In 1803, Wilhelm Mulhens entered into a contract with an unrelated person from Italy named Carlo Francesco Farina, who granted him the right to use his family name, and Mullens opened a small factory at Cologne's Glockengasse. In later years, and after various court battles, his grandson Ferdinand Mulhens was forced to abandon the name Farina for the company and their product. He decided to use the house number given to the factory at Glockengasse during the French occupation in the early 19th century, 4711. Today, original eau de Cologne is still produced in Cologne by both the Farina family, currently in the 8th generation, and by Maurer and Wirtz, who bought the 4711 brand in 2006. Carnival. The Cologne Carnival is one of the largest street festivals in Europe. In Cologne, the carnival season officially starts on the 11th of November at 11 minutes past 11 a.m. with the proclamation of the new carnival season, and continues until Ash Wednesday. However, the so-called Tal Tage do not start until Weiberfastnacht, or, in dialect, Weverfasselovend, the Thursday before Ash Wednesday, which is the beginning of the street carnival. Zulpicher Strasse and its surroundings, Neumarkt Square, Heumarkt, and all bars and pubs in the city are crowded with people in costumes dancing and drinking in the streets. Hundreds of thousands of visitors flock to Cologne during this time. Generally, around 1 million people celebrate in the streets on the Thursday before Ash Wednesday. Rivalry with Düsseldorf. Cologne and Düsseldorf have a fierce regional rivalry, which includes carnival parades, football, and beer. People in Cologne prefer Kolsch, while people in Düsseldorf prefer Altbier. Waiters and patrons will scorn and make a mockery of people who order Altbier in Cologne or Kolsch in Düsseldorf. The rivalry has been described as a love-hate relationship. Museums. Farina Fragrance Museum, birthplace of eau de Cologne. Römisch Germanisches Museum, ancient Roman and Germanic culture. Wallraf Richards Museum, European painting from the 13th to the early 20th century. Museum Ludwig, modern art. Museum Schnutgen, medieval art. Museum für Angewandte Kunst, applied art. Columba Kunstmuseum des Bistums Köln, modern art museum built around medieval ruins of St. Columba, Cologne, completed 2007. Cathedral Treasury, Domschatzkammer, historic underground vaults of the cathedral. Elde House, former local headquarters of the Gestapo, houses a museum documenting Nazi rule in Cologne with a special focus on the persecution of political dissenters and minorities. German Sports and Olympic Museum, exhibitions about sports from antiquity until the present. Imhof Schokoladen Museum, Chocolate Museum. Geo-Museum of the University of Cologne. The exhibition includes fossils, stones and minerals. Forum for Internet Technology and Contemporary Art. Collections of internet-based art, corporate part of Cologne, the experimental platform for art and new media. Flora und Botanischer Garten Köln, the city's formal park and main botanical garden. Forst Botanischer Garten Köln, an arboretum and woodland botanical garden. Music fairs and festivals. The city was home to the internationally famous Ringfest, and now to the CO Pop Festival. In addition, Cologne enjoys a thriving Christmas market presence with several locations in the city. Economy. As the largest city in the Rhine-Ruhr metropolitan region, Cologne benefits from a large market structure. In competition with Düsseldorf, the economy of Cologne is primarily based on insurance and media industries, while the city is also an important cultural and research center and home to a number of corporate headquarters. Among the largest media companies based in Cologne are Westdeutscher Rundfunk, RTL Television, NTV, Deutschland Radio, Brainpool TV, and publishing houses like J.P. Bochum, Taschen, Tandem Verlag, and M. Dumont Schauberg. Several clusters of media, arts and communications agencies, TV production studios, and state agencies work partly with private and government-funded cultural institutions. Among the insurance companies based in Cologne are Central, DEVK, DKV, Generali Deutschland, Genre, Gother, HDI Gerling, and national headquarters of AXA Insurance, Mitsui Sumitomo Insurance Group, and Zurich Financial Services. The German flag carrier Lufthansa and its subsidiary Lufthansa CityLine have their main corporate headquarters in Cologne. The largest employer in Cologne is Ford Europe, which has its European headquarters and a factory in Niel. Toyota Motorsport GmbH, Toyota's official motorsports team, responsible for Toyota rally cars, and then Formula One cars, has its headquarters and workshops in Cologne. Other large companies based in Cologne include the REWE Group, TÜV Rheinland, Deutz AG and a number of Kolsch breweries. Cologne has the country's highest density of pubs per capita. The largest 3 Kolsch breweries are Reisdorf, Gaffel, and Früh. Historically, Cologne has always been an important trade city, with land, air, and sea connections. The city has 5 Rhine ports, the second largest inland port in Germany and one of the largest in Europe. Cologne-Bonn Airport is the second largest freight terminal in Germany. Today, the Cologne Trade Fair ranks as a major European trade fair location with over 50 trade fairs and other large cultural and sports events. In 2008, Cologne had 4.31 million overnight stays booked and 2.38 million arrivals. Cologne's largest daily newspaper is the Kölner Stadt-Anzeiger. Cologne shows a significant increase in startup companies, especially when considering digital business. Cologne has also become the first German city with a population of more than 1 million people to declare climate emergency. Transport. Road transport. Road building had been a major issue in the 1920s under the leadership of Mayor Konrad Adenauer. The first German limited-access road was constructed after 1929 between Cologne and Bonn. Today, this is the Bundesautobahn 555. In 1965, Cologne became the first German city to be fully encircled by a motorway ring road. Roughly at the same time, a city center bypass was planned, but only partially put into effect, due to opposition by environmental groups. The completed section became Bundesstraße B55A, which begins at the Zübrich and meets with A4 and A3 at the interchange Cologne East. Nevertheless, it is referred to as Stadtautobahn by most locals. In contrast to this, the Nord-Süd-Fahrt was actually completed, a new 4-6-lane city center through route, which had already been anticipated by planners such as Fritz Schumacher in the 1920s. The last section south of Ebertplatz was completed in 1972. In 2005, the first stretch of an 8-lane motorway in North Rhine-Westphalia was opened to traffic on Bundesautobahn 3, part of the eastern section of the Cologne Beltway between the interchanges Cologne East and Humar. Cycling. Compared to other German cities, Cologne has a traffic layout that is not very bicycle-friendly. It has repeatedly ranked among the worst in an independent evaluation conducted by the Allgemeiner Deutscher Fahrradclub. In 2014 it ranked 36th out of 39 German cities with a population greater than 200,000. Rail transport. Cologne has a railway service with Deutsche Bahn intercity and ice trains stopping at Köln Hauptbahnhof, Köln Messe, Deutz and Cologne, Bonn Airport. ICE and TGV Thalys high-speed trains link Cologne with Amsterdam, Brussels and Paris. There are frequent ICE trains to other German cities, including Frankfurt am Main and Berlin. ICE trains to London via the Channel Tunnel were planned for 2013. The Cologne Stadtbahn operated by Kölner Verkehrsbetrieb is an extensive light rail system that is partially underground and serves Cologne and a number of neighboring cities. It evolved from the tram system. Nearby Bonn is linked by both the Stadtbahn and Main Line railway trains, and occasional recreational boats on the Rhine. Düsseldorf is also linked by S-Bahn trains, which are operated by Deutsche Bahn. The Rhine-Ruhr S-Bahn has 5 lines which cross Cologne. The S13, S19 runs 24/7 between Cologne HBF and Cologne, Bonn Airport. There are also frequent buses covering most of the city and surrounding suburbs, and Eurolines coaches to London via Brussels. Water transport. Hafen- und Güterverkehr Köln is one of the largest operators of inland ports in Germany. Ports include Köln-Deutz, Köln-Godorf, and Köln-Niel I and II. Air transport. Cologne's international airport is Cologne-Bonn Airport. It is also called Konrad Adenauer Airport after Germany's first post-war Chancellor Konrad Adenauer, who was born in the city and was mayor of Cologne from 1917 until 1933. The airport is shared with the neighboring city of Bonn. Cologne is headquarters to the European Aviation Safety Agency. Education. Cologne is home to numerous universities and colleges, and host to some 72,000 students. Its oldest university, the University of Cologne, is the largest university in Germany, as the Cologne University of Applied Sciences is the largest university of applied sciences in the country. The Cologne University of Music and Dance is the largest conservatory in Europe. Foreigners can have German lessons in the VHS. Public and state universities. University of Cologne. German Sport University Cologne. Public and state colleges. Cologne University of Applied Sciences. Cologne International School of Design. Cologne University of Music and Dance. Academy of Media Arts Cologne. Private colleges. Catholic University of Applied Sciences. Cologne Business School. International Film School Cologne. Rhenish University of Applied Sciences. University of Applied Sciences Fresenius. Research Institutes. German Aerospace Center. European Astronaut Center of the European Space Agency. European College of Sport Science. Max Planck Institute for the Biology of Aging. Max Planck Institute for the Study of Societies. Max Planck Institute for Neurological Research. Max Planck Institute for Plant Breeding Research. Cologne AMS. Center for Accelerator Mass Spectrometry, Institute for Nuclear Physics, University of Cologne. Former colleges include the Cologne Art and Crafts Schools, the Cologne Institute for Religious Art, Lauder Morage School, a Jewish school in Cologne, previously closed. After Russian immigration increased the Jewish population, the school reopened in 2002. Media. Within Germany, Cologne is known as an important media center. Several radio and television stations, including Westdeutscher Rundfunk, RTL and Vox, have their headquarters in the city. Film and TV production is also important. The city is Germany's capital of TV crime stories. A third of all German TV productions are made in the Cologne region. Furthermore, the city hosts the Cologne Comedy Festival, which is considered to be the largest comedy festival in mainland Europe. Sports. Cologne hosts 1. FC Cologne, who play in the 1. Bundesliga. They play their home matches in Rhein Energy Stadion, which also hosted 5 matches of the 2006 FIFA World Cup. The International Olympic Committee and Internationale Vereinigung Sport und Freizeiteinrichtungen e.V. gave Rhein Energy Stadion a bronze medal for being one of the best sporting venues in the world. Cologne also hosts FC Victoria Köln 1904 and SC Fortuna Köln, who currently play in the 3. Liga and the Regionalliga West respectively. The city is also home of the ice hockey team Kölner Haie, in the highest ice hockey league in Germany, the Deutsche Eishockey-Liga. They are based at Lanxess Arena. Several horse races per year are held at Cologne Weidenpesch Racecourse since 1897. The annual Cologne Marathon was started in 1997. Besides, Cologne has a long tradition in rowing, being home of some of Germany's oldest regatta courses and boat clubs, such as the Kölner Rudergesellschaft 1891 in the district Rodenkirchen. Japanese automotive manufacturer Toyota have their major motorsport facility known by the name Toyota Motorsport GmbH, which is located in Marsdorf suburb, and is responsible for Toyota's major motorsport development and operations, which in the past included the FIA Formula One World Championship, the FIA World Rally Championship and the Le Mans Series. Currently they are working on Toyota's team which competes in the FIA World Endurance Championship. Cologne is considered the secret golf capital of Germany. The first golf club in North Rhine-Westphalia was founded in Cologne in 1906. The city offers the most options and top events in Germany. The city has hosted several athletic events which includes the 2005 FIFA Confederations Cup, 2006 FIFA World Cup, 2007 World Men's Handball Championship, 2010 and 2017 Ice Hockey World Championships and 2010 Gay Games. Since 2014, the city has hosted ESL One Cologne, one of the biggest CSGO tournaments held annually in July-August at Lanxess Arena. Notable residents. Notable people, whose roots can be found in Cologne. Konrad Adenauer, politician, mayor of Cologne and first West German federal chancellor. Heinrich Cornelius Agrippa, alchemist, occultist, and author of 3 books of occult philosophy. Agrippina the Younger, Roman empress and mother of Emperor Nero. Rudolf Amelunxen, politician. Katharina Barley, politician. Heinrich Birnbaum, Catholic friar. Heinrich Boyk, Knight's Cross winner. Karl Bosch, entrepreneur, engineer and chemist. Robert Blum, politician and martyr of the 19th century democratic movement in Germany. Heinrich Boll, writer and winner of the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1972. Georg Braun, topo-geographer. Max Bruch, composer. Alex Calatrava, Spanish professional tennis player. Heribert Colline, sculptor. Holger Schukai, musician. Leon Draisaitl, ice hockey player for the Edmonton Oilers. Florian Henkel von Donnersmarck, Oscar-winning director and screenwriter. Max Ernst, painter and artist. Kota Ozawa, Japanese-German animator and artist. Wilfried Feldenkirchen, German professor and economic historian. Jürgen Fritz, musician and composer. Jan Frodeno, 2008 Olympic triathlon champion. Angela Gasso, former lead vocalist of Swedish melodic death metal band Arch Enemy. Britta Heidman, épée fencer and Olympic medalist. H. Robert Heller, former professor, governor of the Federal Reserve System and president of Visa USA. Trude Herr, actress and singer. Jakob Ignaz Hittorf, French architect of German origin. Lutz van der Horst, comedian. Ernst Ising, mathematician and physicist. Yehuda Jacobs, American rabbi and Mashgiach Rushani in Beth Medrash Govoha. Lily Jan, doctor, died presumably in 1944 in Auschwitz. Udo Kier, actor. Johannes Kalitzky, composer and conductor. Rudolf Klein-Rogge, silent film star. Jutta Kleinsmith, off-road automotive racing competitor. Werner Klemperer, Emmy Award-winning comedy actor. Eric Klebanski, Jewish headmaster and teacher. Adolf Kober, Jewish rabbi and medievalist. Peter Kohlgraf, Catholic Bishop of Mainz. Gabby Koster, actress and comedian. Wilhelm Kratz, resistance fighter and Nazi victim. Hildegard Kreckel, actress. Uwe Krupp, professional hockey player. Francis Cruz, politician. Ralph Koenig, comic book creator. Heinz Kuhn, minister-president of North Rhine-Westphalia. Thomas Laubach, Catholic theologian and hymn writer. Heiner Lauterbach, actor. Julia Leischik, editor-in-chief, television presenter and television producer. Herbert Leuninger, Catholic priest and theologian, co-founder of Pro-ASL. Otmar Liebert, musician. Henry Van Lyck, actor. Georg Meisterman, painter, stained glass artist. Peter Milowich, actor, playwright and theater director. Willie Milowich, actor, playwright and theater director. Paul Moldenhauer, politician, lawyer and economist. Wolfgang Niedecken, singer, musician, artist and bandleader of BAP. Marianne Nolly, former nurse and serial killer. Theodore of Corsica, briefly King Theodore of Corsica. Jacques Offenbach, German-born French composer. Willy Ostermann, composer. Nikolaus Otto, inventor, four-cycle internal combustion engine. Kim Petras, singer. Frederick Platjen, journalist. Lucas Podolsky, footballer. Frederick Prausnitz, American conductor and teacher. Krista Pafkin aka Nico, model, actress, singer, and songwriter in Velvet Underground and Warhol Superstar. Hedwig Potthast, secretary and mistress of Heinrich Himmler. Stefan Raab, entertainer and host of Eurovision Song Contest 2011. Felix Rexhausen, journalist. Joseph Nicholas Robert Fleury, painter. Jürgen Rutgers, politician, minister-president of North Rhine-Westphalia. Adam Schall von Bell, since 1622 active missionary of the Order of the Jesuits in China. Georg von Schnitzler, entrepreneur, jurist and industrialist. Ha Schult, installation and conceptual artist. Marietta Slomka, journalist. William Steinberg, conductor. Marcus Stockhausen, musician and composer. Gökhan Tor, Turkish footballer. Wolfgang von Trips, Formula One racing driver. Joost van den Vondel, Dutch poet and playwright. Moshe Wallach, founder and director of Shaare Zedek Hospital, Jerusalem. Robert Weimar, legal scientist and psychologist. Thomas Wensing, writer. Anne Wool, journalist. Carl Weiland, blacksmith. Twin towns, sister cities. Cologne is twinned with Barcelona, Spain. Beijing, China. Bethlehem, Palestine. Cluj-Napoca, Romania. Corinto, Nicaragua. Cork, Ireland. Esch-sur-Alzette, Luxembourg. Indianapolis, United States. Istanbul, Turkey. Katowice, Poland. Kyoto, Japan. Liège, Belgium. Lille, France. Liverpool, England, United Kingdom. Neukölln, Germany. El Relejo, Nicaragua. Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Rotterdam, Netherlands. Tel Aviv, Israel. Thessaloniki, Greece. Treptow-Köpenick, Germany. Tunis, Tunisia. Turin, Italy. Turku, Finland. Volgograd, Russia.
Yo te traigo esta bomba puertorriqueña. Yo te la traigo de Cupey, de Vega Baja y de Santurce, de todas partes de Puerto Rico. Esta bomba yo la dedico a toda mi gente de Puerto Rico, a la familia Fontanet, allá en Cupey Alto y Lo Mejía en Vega Baja. ¡Que gocen! ¡Sí! Bomba, bomba, para siempre. Bomba, bomba está presente, aquí lo canta mi gente. Bomba, bomba, para siempre. Baila, baila y goza, mi bomba puertorriqueña. Bomba, 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 para siempre.
Oder wir setzen uns halt Da rede minha mãe, amor. Aqui, cada um ali. Emily kann im Auto.